Alright guys, I want to preface with this is my first ever video, so if you like it, don't like it, please let me know. The only way I can do these videos is if I get better at them, so besides being jerks out there, I wouldn't suggest that, but you can let me know what we can work on, things like that, so I can get better at this. So this is going to be my first review of my 91 Miata. It's my first ever MX-5, and I'm just going to kind of give you a little walk around, let you know what it's about, and things like that. Alright, here we go. This is my 1991 MX-5 Miata. It has 184,000 miles on it. When I bought it, unfortunately the owners allowed the timing belt to come off. The great part about Miata motors, though, is they are non-interference. As long as nothing happens to the crank nose, you should be fine. Just put a new timing belt on, and you'll be fine. All right, so let's go ahead and move to the interior, and then we'll go ahead and talk about the engine here in just 1 second. Okay. So the nice part about most of these Miatas is that they are very, very basic. Very driver centralized. You have your tach on the left, speedometer on the right, fuel on the left, and oil pressure and coolant. So nice and simple. You don't have a lot of dials to read, things to figure out. And the original steering wheels are pretty simplistic, a horn and an airbag, just because the federal government relied on that. Most of you out there are probably replacing your steering wheels. I like factory as much as stock as I can, so that's just something that I would stay with. Kind of moving over here to the center console, you kind of got really simple. You got your flip-up headlights. As most of I've seen on other YouTube videos or other channels, most of the headlights don't seem to have too many problems with any of the cars and things like that. Most people have an upgraded stereo. However, most of these cars came with an AM/FM cassette in the early 91s, 90s, and even the 92s. 93s, they started offering a CD player, which because of a nice extra feature for people who wanted to add that to their car. So in my particular car, the only real things that were wrong with it, they still continue to be a problem with it, is if you look down right here where I'm pointing, these are the door lights. Habitually, these switches don't work right. You can kind of slide them back and forth and get them to come back on. They're on both sides, and they're not very bright. So if you're looking to put a new Miata or get a Miata, preferably an NA or an NA6 or an NA8, you probably want to go ahead and get some LEDs and go ahead and clean those up. Okay. In my car, I had a fairly clean interior. I did do some vacuuming, things like that. I need to vacuum it out today as I'm doing this video. Pretty simple with the nothing more, just a fuel door right here. These habitually break too. You can find them in the junkyards with a little switch for pretty cheap, usually a couple bucks if you find any cars in the junkyard. Okay. Yes, the car has a cup holder, but it's not, barely can hold a can of Coke. So my suggestion is do not attempt to put any kind of big drinks in there. If you go through the drive-thrus a lot, probably not a good car for you. So kind of moving on to the other side as well, and the doors here. So doors are pretty simplistic. Just have a lock, you have a speaker right down there on an armrest. Depending on your car, you can take a look. As a general whole, if you look right here, you don't see anything there. Usually you'll see it in the leather cars, but these cars do have speakers in the headrests. The one thing I've done some research about is that the speakers inside the car, usually when you put aftermarket, can't activate because they're not run in parallel. So a lot of times you got to go through, reroute the cords and everything and kind of run them in tandem so that you have, when you play the speakers, you'll have a right speaker and a left speaker here, because you have two speakers on either side, so that when you hear sound, when you're sitting driving or your passenger, they'll hit her in the appropriated place. Okay. So kind of moving on through the car, stuff like that. obviously you have your convertible top. A lot of people damage these tops. I inadvertently damaged mine as well. The most common mistake is if you do have a zipper inside of your Miata, make sure that you go ahead and definitely go ahead and unzip it. This allows it to lay flat. It also allows the vinyl window on the back to not be damaged, which was in my case. I had a couple. I created a hole because I did not do that. So something to kind of think about. We're going to go ahead and move on to the motor. I'm going to go ahead and pop that open for you. And, you know, not a lot here. Just... Sorry for my shoddy camera work here. I'm gonna try to get better at that as I continue developing a channel here. Pretty simplistic, straightforward motor. Always a good idea to make sure that you got good cooling going on with these cars. They habitually have really bad cooling problems, so if you're gonna do a timing belt, which is easy, it's right here on the front of the motor, then it's a good idea to go ahead and replace the water pump when you do that work. That'll just kind of cut down on that. My particular car has cruise control, which is all mechanical. It's right over here. This is actually cable driven. As you can see, it kind of runs up this way and then across. It kind of comes across, and this controls your idle control. I probably have that wrong, so I'll probably put a correction in my video there. Your idler, that way that it doesn't inadvertently cause a stutter or things like that in the motor. When I bought the car, in my case, somebody had taken it all apart and I did not know what I was really looking at, or the parts that I needed to be able to put back in there. So come to find out, I drove it around, didn't realize that that tube wasn't covered, this one right here, and it was like stuttering and things like that. So once I fixed that problem, I didn't have any further issues. Go figure. Okay. As you can see, obviously some of you Miata owners, you already know this, but you can see there's no engine or no battery in the engine bay here. While there is plenty of room in here, Mazda made a good decision in putting the battery in the trunk. This just frees up the space in there. Something other little tidbit, a lot of the times these Miatas with their headlights, they did not sit flush. So you can simply, to get them flush, just kind of pull them up. And the nice part about it is now when you put down your hood, you'll have a nice seamless fit. Obviously, if you're going to do something like the LED light conversion or something like that, then not really relevant. It'll be propped up anyway. So kind of another thing to kind of think about. Okay, so we're going to kind of work our way back around, guys. We're going to go ahead and work towards the trunk here. Some of the early, usually the early 90, the NA6s, they did not have a trunk release in them. So if you have an NA8, you most likely have a trunk latch inside your console there. It's a good idea to make sure you have a good lock in there, because those things, if you put things in your trunk, they could get stolen. So something to think about when you're going through those. Right over here, you've got cover plate right here. This is where your jack is and all that stuff, kind of right down, tucked down in there. These were the homes for those. You have that. If you do need to replace that filler cap, it's kind of right up underneath here. You can kind of see briefly where the cable's at. Sorry, my hand is in the way there. Right in there. So kind of as you work over here, here's your battery. So pretty simplistic there. Not a whole lot going on. You pretty much just have a cover that goes over the top of that. It's a good idea. You can use the kind of use the spare tire there for, you know, to kind of hold that little fabric up, but they seem to get kind of worn out. My car actually has an aftermarket antenna in it, as you can kind of see. It'll kind of work up here. I kind of like these little stubby antennas because then you don't have to deal with those stupid electronic ones that tend to go out on you. Also, another thing to think about in these is that the carpets seem to get moved quite a bit. So if the carpet moves a lot, you can get the little tabs on like eBay for, you know, a few bucks, and you get a whole pack of them. So. All right, so just giving you guys kind of a overview. This is my 91 MX-5 Miata with the 1.6 liter with its whopping 115 horsepower. Don't plan on turboing this car. Maybe if I buy another kind of junker car, then I'll go ahead and do that. But until then, probably not. So guys, this was my first ever review on my MX-5. I've never done any kind of reviews on YouTube or anything like that. I posted a couple of my autocross and stuff like that, but I'll probably be doing a lot more reviews on my 1991 Miata MX-5. And then for you guys out there, like, my goal for this channel ultimately is going to be start doing some more realistic reviews. I've got a 2013 Ram I'll be doing an owner review and things like that. My wife also owns a 2013 Chevy Traverse, so I'll probably be doing that. And then I'll be partnering with some family and friends and getting some more realistic car reviews and stuff like that. I see too many on YouTube where it's, you know, these car reviews on the big bad, you know, whatever, on there, and it's not realistic on the things that you're looking for. Now, the downside obviously is I know a lot of you guys out there, you guys are either Mazda fans, or you're, you know, Subaru fans, or you're Porsche fans, or you're whatever. I personally have owned quite a few different cars, you know, 60s Mustangs, had a 73 914. I've had GMC Sierras, I've had Chevy Silverados, I currently have a 2013 Ram, I've had, you know, GMC Terrain, I've also had a Chevy Traverse, so I have lots of different vehicles. I'm not necessarily partial to one over the other. Even Fords, definitely have had, even had some of the Fords and stuff like that. So my goal with the channel is obviously going to be for all of you guys out there to get some more realistic reviews of maybe some basic cars, but there will be, obviously, we'll throw in some, you know, better cars and things like that that you guys might all actually want to watch. I know that you guys aren't going to want to see a thing on a Chevy Traverse because it's basically a glorified minivan, and who wants to watch a video on a glorified minivan? But the goal is, you know, if you guys like it, you don't like it, please let me know. Thumbs up, thumbs down. The only way I can get better at these videos is if you tell me if I'm doing good. Again, like I stated at the beginning of the video, it doesn't mean you got to be a jerk. Constructive criticism isn't necessarily a bad thing. So anybody can get better at their videos and things like that. Other than that, signing out.